I own a NERF Musket for home defense, since that's what the founding fathers intended. 4 ruffians break into my house. What the devil? As I grab my powdered wig and Kentucky long rifle, blow a golf ball-sized hole through the first man. He's dead on the spot. Draw my pistol on the second man. Misses him entirely because it's smoothbore and dog. I have to resort to the cannon mounted at the top of the stairs loaded with grape shots. Tally-ho, lads! The grape shot shreds 2 men in the blast. The sound of extra shrapnel set off car alarms. Fix bayonet and charge the last terrified rapscallion. Leads out waiting on the police to arrive, since triangular bayonet wounds are impossible to stitch up. Just as the founding fathers intended. Sure, foam fling is all about fun, and sometimes performance just doesn't matter. And if you're some kind of live-action role player, then, well, performance is probably the last thing on your mind. And some gimmicky, fun blasters don't have to perform well. But what if they did? Meet the Carny Rex Flintlock Musket, built and shipped to me by Frontline Foam. Thank you very much for providing the blaster. Because I held one of these things at Ragnar Oktoberfest 2023, and I had to have one. Because not only is it a fun blaster, but oh yeah, this thing slaps. This is, of course, a 3D printed blaster with, non-3D printed hardware that makes it shoot foam projectiles. Plural. I did, however, add this stupid little Nerf thing because I have problems in the head. And the print quality is freaking fantastic, and the design of this thing, Carny Rex has done an immaculate job. You could almost make the argument that it's just not long enough, right? Like, it needs to be a longer flintlock rifle. It's like, every single time I see this thing, I think of 2 things. One is that scene from The Patriot where Mel Gibson ambushes a squad of redcoats. I don't even remember if that was a good movie. That's just the only scene I remember. And the other, although that was a blunderbuss, that ridiculous reload from Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, because they put a blunderbuss in that. And the reload is obnoxious. You can, of course, find a link down to Frontline Foam where you can pick one of these things up either as a hardware kit or as a fully completed blaster with printed parts that you just slap together yourself. But I'll also link to Carny Rex's Etsy store where you can buy the files yourself. You bought just a hardware kit from Frontline Foam. It's got sling loops on it. I don't know if I would trust these with an actual sling, but they're pretty robust. The actual swivel point is a nut and bolt system. The things are printed rigid enough. It unfortunately doesn't use wooden actual filament, but it does have brown filament, and you can get these in whatever color you actually want, because of course it's 3D printed and that's half the fun. The flint actually works. This system is so much fun. That is cool, and apparently there's a way to make that work with like actual toy caps to get an actual flare smoke effect. This one doesn't do that, but I saw the files on Etsy and it did. And let's not mistake the fact that it has an actual ramrod, and this is integral to the function of your blaster. Because to load this beast, it's actually a multi-step process, as you would imagine for being a flintlock. But it's way shorter to hit that like button, hit subscribe so you can see more videos on more things like a NERF flintlock. But we take our stick, you might think you might like tamp it down like that. That doesn't go down. So you're actually gonna have to take the thin part and use that as like a palm rest and prime the blaster using the stick. And I have the highest spring load you can get in this thing, so there we go, it clicks. All well and good, you can take that out. Now this thing is pretty much ready. We can cock that back. It's not important to cock that back, but you can do it for the fun of it. And now we get to our projectiles, because this thing not only has a brass barrel in it, but it has a hop-up for NERF Rival rounds, because of course, it's gonna fire NERF Rival rounds. So let's start with that NERF Rival round. We're just gonna try to drop that in there. We're gonna take our stick and we're gonna kind of poke it down until it don't go down no more, and that means this thing is now loaded and ready to rock. And you're not ready for this. That's not gonna come across on camera yet, but just you wait until we go over to Freddy. Take our stick back out, jam our stick back down in there, don't take that out of context. And now we can take our humble foam dart. Now there is actually a method to this, because as you can tell, since we use the stick to prime the blaster, That means that if you push the dart too far, it's gonna wind up into the plunger tube, because this thing has an air plunger tube with a spring and everything like that. So there's actually a notch on our ramrod that says, do not go past this point. So we just kind of grab our stick and we just gently push that down until we get to that point. And if we put it past all that, you have to disassemble the entire blaster and it sucks. But once again, we are loaded with a foam dart. And it's stupid strong. Of course, we can prime it one more time. Never gets boring. And we can take the short dart, drop that down in there, and do the same thing for added effect. It's magical. Now, I know y'all are gonna ask this, and yes, you can fire multiple rival rounds and probably even a bunch of the 50 caliber foam paintballs out of this thing for a true grape shot effect. I'm not gonna do it because 2 of the times I've tried to do that out of the 4 or 5 times I've done it, I've had a rival round stuck in there, and if there's a round stuck in there after you fire, well, that means you have to disassemble the entire blaster to pop that round out, because of course you need to be able to prime the blaster with the thing. You can see why that's a little bit of a problem and why I'm not gonna do it. So if you're gonna buy it for that purpose, I don't recommend doing so. And that's about all I have to say until we take this thing over to Freddy and of course our indoor shooting range to see how powerful it is and of course how accurate it can be. I feel like having to watch the raw, unedited footage of me chronographing this blaster would be like a prison sentence punishment. So starting off, we're gonna do just rival rounds since that's kind of what this thing is meant for, but I'll put a couple of short darts through it too. 156.1, and you can never do this out of order. Bloop. Pop, 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 pop. 140.8. Man, I was getting like 170s with this thing at one point. Give me another high number. 151.5. Bloop. Oh. Bloop. Bloop. Ah. Oh. Bloop. I did it again.
One complete disassembly later.
All right, let's not do that again. And pop. 142.2. 140.4. I've had to take this thing apart a couple of times now. I might have done something because it was hitting a lot harder than that. But of course, we have to try it with a foam dart. So let's put an Adventure Force Pro Dart in there. 187.8. Another Adventure Force Pro Dart. 191.4. So yeah, these velocities for a dart are absolutely ridiculous. That being said, good luck hitting anything with them. At least the rival rounds have a little bit of a hop up. Although I guess that inaccuracy is historically accurate. 188.9. And because somebody will ask, we'll do one full length dart. 150.9. Well, as I wait for the digital targets to boot up, I'm gonna hit the little physical targets. All right, let's see if we can hit it with just a little front sight. Little low. Bingo! Oh. It must be a little too low. Boing! All right, I'm gonna aim way higher on this one. That should tell me if it's actually bad or if I'm just a little too low. Definitely shooting too low. This is gonna be the longest target test yet, but closer to the bullseye, higher the score. Let's see exactly what we can hit with the freaking NERF Musket. It's off to a good start. A little too high. A little too low. Dead on. A little low. I mean, there's no rear sights. I'm just kind of guessing. Really low. Okay, I'm gonna have to aim up for the next shots. We started off so promising. Okay, all right. Guess I got another shot to try to prove myself right. Okay. bet you I can hit the center again now. 61. I'm gonna say that's pretty okay. It doesn't feel inaccurate. To prove that, I'm gonna smash that physical target one last time. And if I do, well, then it's not the blaster, it's me. Yeah, now, for a rival blaster, a Springer at that single shot, it's going pretty hard. So yeah, in terms of high-end power, this is the highest that it will go from Frontline Foam themselves. If you want to tone it down, there are different springs you can get to lower that power velocity. Most LARPs probably don't want you beating somebody upside the head with a NERF Rival round at 170 FPS. But you also could just not ram the round all the way down. There's little finicky things you can do if you have the highest power option, of course, to shoot at a lower velocity. But this thing is a little bit difficult to prime with that stick. It doesn't exactly feel all that sturdy, and it feels like it's gonna snap if you don't be a little bit too careful. So yeah, if you go with a lower spring, it's gonna be a little bit more pleasant experience. But the reason why I love this blaster so much is because it is the most impractical implement that you could use. There is nothing stopping you, besides maximum velocity cap, to use this thing at your local war. And it's on the other side of being an ultimate flex. You can tag somebody out with a really ridiculous low-powered blaster, but you can also tag somebody out with an utterly ridiculous high-powered blaster that is totally inconceivable for the battle in which it's currently partaking in. I would make the argument that if your local war has a velocity cap and this just kind of barely goes above it within 10 to 20%, I would allow this to be used with NERF Rival rounds because those don't really hurt unless you're point blanking somebody in the face with them from this thing. And this thing takes 35 seconds to reload in between shots. But let's face it, there's one thing that everybody currently watching this video wants, or if they don't know it yet, I'm about to say it, and that's a war where everybody has one of the Carny Rex Flintlock Muskets. And yeah, that's a lot of printers and a lot of assembly and a lot of stuff, but if you had like 30, 40 people doing an old-timey reenactment with these things, it's about the most fun I think you could have in foam flinging. To be perfectly honest, I cannot think of anything more enjoyable. I love Carny Rex's design language. He has other blasters, and you're gonna have to let me know down in the comments section if you want me to take a look at something like, I don't know, the hand mortar, the flintlock pistol, even a volley fire pepper box thing. And most of those are not meant to be as competitive as this. And honestly, I think that's why I love this blaster so much. Because while it is totally impractical, it is actually usable. Every single tag you get with this thing, you will probably remember fondly for the rest of your life. Your grandchildren will be hearing about the time that you loaded a NERF musket and totally nailed that dude from like 130 feet away. At least my hypothetical grandchildren will. This is probably why Uncle Walcom hasn't been invited to a family function in a while. And of course, saving the actual very best for last, it has a bayonet. It's not like it's a good or usable bayonet. You could never actually have this on the end of your blaster because you're gonna take somebody's eye out, but it has it. It doesn't lock on very securely at all, but it's probably not gonna fall off unless you actually try. And it does give you that effect. Why? Why not? In terms of practicality, I'm giving this thing a 6 out of 10. It hits hard. It will fire a shot. It's got a hop up for a rival round. It is the farthest I've pretty much ever driven a rival round. You could hit things with this. In terms of fun, I'm giving it a 9 out of 10 because there is nothing more exhilarating than this lengthy reload process that just puts a smile on my face every single time I do it. And you can get better with time. And it's a blaster that will absolutely strike fear in the hearts of anybody downrange from it. My hat's off to you, Carny Rex. This one is absolutely flawless. And again, if you want to get one, there's a link to Frontline Foam down below where you can pick one up, pick up a hardware kit, and of course, Carny Rex's Etsy where you can check out all of his other blasters, buy files, and procure hardware yourself. And someday... Oh, I just did the thing I wasn't... Oh, yep, now I have to take the entire blaster apart. Make sure you follow that order. This video's over.